Secretary Pete Hegseth seen leaving the White House for a visit that was not on the official schedule today. Comes as Hegseth is under increasing fire for sharing military plans in a Signal group chat. This is a second Signal group chat, and this group included a lot of personal people, including his brother and his wife. His wife is not an employee of the Defense Department, nor is his brother. And tonight, CNN is learning more about his wife, Jennifer Hegseth. She is a former Fox producer who is constantly by Hegseth's side and has even requested a security clearance for herself. Brian Todd is out front.
She's not formally employed at the Pentagon, and it's unclear whether she has a security clearance, though a source tells CNN she's applied for one. A Pentagon spokesperson said the department does not discuss security clearances for any individual. But tonight, Jennifer Hegseth is firmly entrenched in her husband's inner circle and in his controversy. Jennifer Hegseth was in a recent second Signal group chat in which her husband, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, shared sensitive information about U.S. military operations against the Houthi rebels. Pete Hegseth didn't refute the reporting that he'd shared information on a Signal chat with his wife, but did say this to Fox News.
What was shared over Signal, then and now, however you characterize it, was informal, unclassified coordinations for media coordination and other things.
Jennifer Hegseth met her husband when they both worked at Fox News. Each has 3 children from previous marriages, and they have 1 child together. Jennifer Hegseth has been perpetually by her husband's side since his confirmation process earlier this year. She often went with him to his meetings with senators on Capitol Hill. And a Senate aide tells CNN there was particular frustration among female senators that Jennifer Hegseth was there because they were looking to ask Pete Hegseth about allegations against him of sexual assault, which he has denied. Jennifer Hegseth's presence at those meetings, quote, totally changed the dynamic of the conversations about the assault allegations, the aide said.
Really put a damper on those senators' ability to actually ask the most sensitive questions and to get a real flavor for what he was all about, whether he was being truthful or whether he was, trying to hide something.
Multiple sources tell CNN Pete Hegseth has grown increasingly paranoid about potential leaks to the media within the Pentagon and has begun depending on a smaller circle for counsel, including his wife.
It was Jesus and Jenny.
A U.S. official tells CNN Jennifer Hegseth shares her husband's distrust of many media outlets, besides Fox. Jennifer Hegseth has also attended at least one official meeting with her husband at the Pentagon in March with Britain's Defense Secretary. Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson tells CNN that Jennifer Hegseth, quote, exited the meeting before any sensitive and classified discussions occurred. Still, one watchdog says her mere presence at that meeting could send concerning signals.
If foreign leaders can't count on our Secretary of Defense not to share sensitive information with their spouse or other personal connections, whether via Signal or in-person meetings, it inevitably lessens their willingness to share sensitive information with us. That makes us less safe.
Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson tells CNN that Jennifer Hegseth is a, quote, incredibly accomplished woman and leader. Wilson also said of her that she is a trusted advisor to her husband and an advocate for military families. Aaron?
All right, Brian, thank you very much. And with me now, journalist Gretchen Carlson. Jennifer Hegseth was one of her producers when she was an anchor at Fox News. She also worked with Pete Hegseth. She is also the co-founder of Lift Our Voices. Also here, former Democratic Congressman Max Rose. He was a senior advisor to former Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and also Max, of course, you served in Afghanistan. So Gretchen, just trying to understand this a little bit, such that you can explain, why do you think Secretary Hegseth is keeping his wife so close and so intimately involved in obviously very serious things? I mean, this is not even talking about the classified strike details, but those of what's going on at the Pentagon.
Well, keep in mind that he said during his confirmation hearings that he was a changed man because of 2 things, Jenny and Jesus. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that from a Christian perspective, his behavior has not lived up to what most Christians would believe is the right thing to do, which is to take accountability, to ask for forgiveness, to say that you've made mistakes and move on. By the way, this story would have been over if you would have just owned it from the beginning. But I think what's really also important here is that you have to understand the inside of Fox News, where, first of all, she was probably one of his producers from time to time when he filled in on the week show of Fox and Friends. He was on the weekends. And producers are your trusted advisors. But there's also a dynamic at Fox News with the idea that the world's out against you, right? That there's sort of this belief that everyone is there to get you. And so I think that we're seeing that play out now in the way in which he's deflecting things that people say he's doing wrong, and he's going just into his isolated chamber with his wife.
And Max, let me ask you about that. Okay, so these group chats, and as Gretchen said, he owned the first one, right, where Jeffrey Goldberg is, I don't know what word even now to use, is added. Let's just say added. I won't put an adjective on it into the group. But this other group with his brother and his wife and his lawyer and 10 other people, can you think of a single good reason? Again, you worked at the Defense Department under Austin. Can you think of a single good reason for such a group chat to exist where Houthi strike plans, the same ones that we all saw published, would be put?
Of course not. I mean, it's ludicrous. Look, signal chats are very common in politics and all the rest, so they may be used to that form of communication, but it is incredibly rare to see something like this happen. But it's also not isolated, right? This is a long narrative, a long story here of Pete Hegseth's utter incompetence and utter disregard for the way national defense is supposed to be executed. You know, from his first nomination, leading organizations like VoteVets came out and said, this is really, really dangerous. Okay, if you want to play politics, do it with another cabinet secretary, because people's lives are on the line here. And unfortunately, we're seeing that story play out.
And I'm curious, there's been those close to him in the Pentagon who are working, people he, supposedly trusted, have left, have spoken out, are speaking out. One of them is his top spokesman, Gretchen, saying there had been a month of total chaos. I mean, a complete loss of confidence, at least among many in him. I mean, how could you see him even operating right now when you have all of those defections?
Well, remember, everything is not him. During the confirmation hearings, when he was asked by senators about whether or not it was the rape allegation or any other things that had come up, his misuse of finances, he would say, well, those are smears, right? Or it's fake news. He has never been accountable for anything. And now what I think is incredibly interesting is that these were his hand-picked people now.
Yeah.
So now the Republican talking point to support him has been that the Department of Defense is actually out to get him. But that makes no sense, because these are his people.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is obviously on the ropes. Sources tell CNN that his wife, his third wife, Jennifer Hegseth, who does not have an official Pentagon role or security clearance, is part of his shrinking inner circle as he, according to insiders, grows more paranoid. But we do know that he included her on a signal chat where he shared the same information about the pending attack on the Houthis in Yemen. As somebody who has fought in Afghanistan, how do you feel about this information about a pending attack being shared on a signal chat with people like his wife, like his brother, like his lawyer, and on that other signal chat, accidentally with a journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg?
Every young officer is taught leadership by example. Hypocrisy, double standards, these are toxic to esprit de corps, to morale, to good order and discipline within the ranks. What Hegseth is trying to get away with is conduct that, should a captain or a corporal have committed it, would be career ending for them. And I assure you that every single uniformed individual knows that, and it is corroding their respect for him and, frankly, for the chain of command. The man needs to be fired.
He was an officer in the Minnesota Army National Guard. He served abroad. He surely knows that. I mean, we've heard him say similar things that you just said, except he was talking about Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. How do your fellow veterans who are Republicans, do they talk to you about this?
I think they understand that when an individual comes into that office, talks about returning the Pentagon to the warfighters, and then spends 3 months installing a makeup studio in the Pentagon so he can do Fox News hits, is not an individual who's serious about actually improving morale or readiness within the Department of Defense, nor is it an individual who is going to be taken seriously by the likes of Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or the Ayatollah. Our enemies are looking across the negotiating table at him, at Tulsi Gabbard, and they think we're sending the junior varsity squad. It's making Americans less safe.
Hegseth's former spokesman, John Uliot, said in a statement, quote, "It's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon, from leaks of sensitive operational plans to mass firings. If you were still out on the battlefield while all this was happening, how would you feel, Congressman?
The same way I feel now, which is that I blame Senator John Thune for this. John Thune and other Senate Republicans know that he is manifestly unfit and unqualified for this job. They confirmed him and abdicated their Article I responsibility because they didn't want to upset the dear leader. And by doing so, they have made this nation's military less ready and less fit in fighting to take on our adversaries, particularly China and the Indo-Pacific.
But isn't recruitment way up?
Recruitment is one element of the military's readiness. The other element is esprit de corps and morale. The other element is our ability to procure equipment competently. The other element is how the Department of Defense negotiates against foreign parties. And all of these are being degraded by his lack of professionalism and his lack of managerial competence.
Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today, sir.